Just two brief points before lunch. The first one is that, in the practice we say that we are to observe thoughts as they arise and pass. And then sometimes people have this idea that they'll sit there and then slowly this thought will arise, it'll be there a little bit and slowly it'll go away. It's not going to be like that. In fact, if we're watching and not grasping, what you'll notice is that as soon as you notice something, gone, 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 gone. So you'll notice like this. It's not like it's here, it's watching, there it is, there it goes. So if you're really watching, you'll just, again, as soon as you start to notice something, immediately gone, immediately gone, immediately gone. Very good, very good. Okay. What are the benefits of this practice? Like the breath practice, of course, this is a Shamatha practice. So this practice, the goal of this practice is to cultivate a calm, clear, focused mind. But this practice, due to its nature, has a lot of side benefits, which I briefly mentioned before, but maybe it's good to mention again. Many of us in the modern world are the slaves of our own mind. That we are often overwhelmed and tormented by our thoughts, emotions, and memories. And generally what happens, of course, is that when these come up, we get caught up in our stories. And every time we get caught up in our stories, we're increasing the habit of those stories coming up again. And then if it's not a pleasant story and we don't know how to deal with it, what we tend to try and do now is we try to suppress that, those unpleasant things. But trying to suppress them is not really dealing with them. In fact, they often then manifest as a lot of physical problems. I think a lot of modern day physical illnesses is due to suppressing of these stories, of thoughts, emotions, memories. And then we also tend to project that negativity onto others because by suppressing it, we're sort of effectively disowning it. We don't want to own it. And so for example, if we've got an anger issue and we're suppressing the anger, we're sort of denying that anger, we're not owning it. But we can still, and that usually manifests as a lot of physical problems, you know. We can have digestion problems, we can have all sorts of aches and pains in the body from that. But it doesn't go away. But because we've really disowned it, what we do is we project onto others. You know, we can feel the anger there, but it's not me. I'm not the angry one. It's them. They're the angry people. And so we project a lot of this negativity onto the people around us. So really, many of us have become the slaves of our own mind. We've made our own mind our worst enemy. Whereas if we do this practice of observing the mind, observing our thoughts and emotions and memories and so forth, then we're not feeding it. Because every time we can watch one of these mental events arise and pass, we're not feeding it. Which means the habit of it coming up will get weaker and weaker and weaker. So over time, our mind will become more naturally quiet and still. And also, if we can watch it, we're free of it. Which means these thoughts, emotions, and memories can't harm us. Because actually, if we look at what a thought, emotion, and memory really is from its own side, it's virtually nothing. They have no power in themselves to harm us. They only have power to harm us if we give them power. And we give them power either by identifying with them and following them or trying to suppress them. Then they have a lot of power to harm us. But if we can step back and watch, they have no power to harm us at all. Which means, in future, if we develop this ability, in future, even if some very strong mental event were to arise, we could be fully present with it without it overwhelming us, without creating any harm. So we really will become the masters of our mind through this practice. And another side benefit with this practice is that when we're observing our mind, our thoughts and emotions and so forth, then our habit patterns, which sometimes we don't notice, become very obvious because we can see them. And if it's some sort of dysfunctional habit that we get caught up in and we start to notice that, it actually becomes harder to continue to do it because we can see that it's not really bringing us anything. So simply observing this can really be helpful in starting to let go of dysfunctional tendencies. But also at a deeper level, observing our mind and all these thoughts, emotions and memories and so forth, we can really start to intuitively come to an insight into the nature of our mind, which of course is Vipassana practice. So this practice is very much a bridge into the Vipassana practice as well. So therefore, even though many of you probably found this more challenging than the breath, there's enormous benefits with this practice. And so again, if we follow Shantideva's advice, no matter how difficult something seems, everything with practice becomes easy. So if we keep practicing this, we're going to get all of these benefits from this practice. Okay. Time for lunch, so let's break there and come back at 2 o'clock.